not.
I want to also just in regards to this, because obviously our reason for doing this story was, or excuse me, for doing this show was because it was a college-age student who decided to come forward about a rape that happened to her. And many students don't know, many college and university students out there don't even know that if a university doesn't fully investigate allegations of rape or sexual assault, they can receive serious penalties and even fines by the Department of Education. The Department of Education can impose those fines. Now, even though in regards to the story with Jade Wagner, it did not happen on the campus of Jacksonville State University. It happened at Lake Logan Martin, which is located in East Central Alabama. On the Coosa River. This lake borders St. Clair and Talladega counties in the city of Pell City, and which is about 40 some odd miles away from the city of Jacksonville. So I now want to bring in Dr. Timothy B. King, who is the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management and Student Affairs at Jacksonville State University. We want to thank you so much for joining us, Dr. King. Can you tell us about these laws that the federal government has in place that says that if a college or university student approaches administration or approaches the leaders of an institution of higher education and they do not fully investigate, that they could face some serious trouble?
Well, first, I apologize for being late. Let me explain what my role is on campus first. I think that's probably more important and what I would like your listeners to hear. I am the Title IX coordinator, and Title IX means a lot of different things. A lot of people associate it with equality in athletics, and it's not just that. It also covers sexual misconduct. And OCR issued a letter in 2011 addressing colleges and universities saying, you're not doing enough to protect your students. You're not doing enough to investigate these alleged incidences of sexual misconduct. So what my role is on this campus is to be the person who can investigate a sexual misconduct charge brought to me by a student. Now, it could be against another student, it could be against a faculty member, it could be a visitor. If it's our student, then we can handle it. Like District Attorney McVeigh said, there are options available, and I am one option that's available to students. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, does not matter. If you feel that you have been violated, then you can come to me, and then I will initiate an investigation. Now, let's say someone comes to me and I don't do that. Well, then if they report us to OCR, then certainly some bad things could happen.
And tell our listeners what OCR, who OCR
Office
is.
for Civil Rights. They're the ones who enforce Title IX.
And at what point would the Office of Civil Rights say, okay, this investigation into this student's allegations were not thorough enough? At what point would they say not enough was done? Because in some cases, many people feel like you can only do so much.
Well, I mean, that's a hard question to answer because it's different for each case. If you've read the paper or kept up with some of the cases lately, like I think it was in Montana, they had a very significant case there. They came down pretty hard on them, so they didn't do anything. So, there's a whole range of different issues, of things that could happen. So basically, if you're negligent and don't do anything, you're going to get hit pretty hard. And if you fail to follow up or come to some type of resolution or anything like that, then certainly OCR could come in and issue some sanctions.
Now, I want to also now switch this over to Sergeant Carl Pruinger, who is the lead investigator for the Jacksonville State University Police Department. In regards to college and university students, once a student steps to you, walks into your office and says, Sergeant Pruinger, I've been raped, at what point does the investigation begin and how?
Well, the investigation begins right there. At that point, my primary concern is the safety of the victim. And each rape case is unique. So when I say safety and they walk in my office, okay, we can assume that that person is safe. There's a whole range of things that I go through, and that goes in line with a crime scene, medical attention for the victim, a rape kit, all of those things. The priority is the victim right off the bat. The victim's safety, medically, psychologically, and physically. I do not initially do any kind of an investigation as such, but there's a case number now tracking everything that I do. So the first thing that I try to do, if you want me to go step by step through this,
You may.
I will, is to get medical attention. With medical attention, then I try to get Second Chance involved, Trace Fleming
And Susan Shipman.
get them involved also, because if they choose to do a rape kit, and we want them to do that, there is a law now, 90-day law, where you can do a rape kit and it doesn't require any police action for 90 days. And at the end of 90 days, if the victim does not choose to prosecute, that kit will be destroyed. However, we do have that initial evidence, forensics, if you would, on hand. We didn't lose that. At least we made that effort. The victim now becomes a little bit empowered too. We have that club, so to speak, to go after a perp. Once the victim's at the hospital, then speaks with the Second Chance representatives. Usually I try to make sure that there is a relative or somebody trusted for that victim. And what I'll do then is schedule a follow-up. I really don't want to do any kind of interview, re-victimize the victim, go through all of that trauma again right off the bat. I want the victim to get a good night's sleep, good rest, possibly 2 cycles. And then what I would prefer, what I do is I ask for a follow-up appointment at the office.
And that's something that you mentioned too about trauma. I want to now switch it over to Julie Nix, who is the Director of Counseling Services at Jacksonville State University. Ms. Nix, in regards to trauma, what certain things obviously someone just cannot get over. Things such as the death of a loved one is one of those things that people don't get over. Rape is just one of those things that people don't necessarily get over, but they learn to either live with the fact or try to move forward in that. What can people do to help not re-traumatize a victim, not to bring back all those feelings of pain and torture that they felt during their time when they may have been raped or sexually assaulted? Because sometimes people don't know that they could be re-victimizing someone.
Well, I think, one important aspect is the law enforcement component and their sensitivity in dealing with the victim, and trying to limit the amount of times that the victim has to repeat the story, allowing maybe the victim to have a single point of contact within the law enforcement agency. I think those are all, things. Trace may have some other thoughts on that, but I know, following up on what Carl said, I think that's, very important for victims.
Trace Fleming Smith.
You're absolutely right that sexual assault isn't something you just get over. It's something that you get through, and for us working with survivors, we really see the benefit for counseling, and we see the benefit of supportive groups and healing groups, and we see the benefit of one-on-one attention from an advocate and the court advocates that we have at Second Chance, being able to work with someone to walk them through what's happening next. When Carl was talking about contacting Second Chance, one of the things that we do is we actually stay with the survivor throughout their entire forensic exam as long as they want us to be there. And we answer questions. We run for things so the nurse can stay in the room with them. But most of it's just that chance to make sure that they're being treated well and that they're being treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve.
And just the whole thing, too, about re-traumatizing the victim. I'm sure as prosecutors, Assistant District Attorney Weems and District Attorney McVeigh, I'm sure as prosecutors that must be such a daunting task for the two of you as you're in your prosecutorial stages of trying to get information from the victim and trying to speak with others who may have witnessed this victim being raped or victim being sexually assaulted. It must be quite a task trying to do your job and not re-victimize the victim because they could pull away from you.
I would agree. I think that's part of the reason we have somebody like Jennifer with a background in social work. She could do a tremendous job at any job in my office and is one of the better prosecutors that I have. But she has agreed to take on this task because it is a specialized area of the law. There are so many different rules and regulations that deal with it, and you have to be straightforward with your victims. And that's what I've talked to you about right off the bat. We can tell a victim who potentially might want to prosecute, here's some of the things you can look forward to. Some things can be empowering, as Carl used that term. I think that's great. Other things can be scary. But because it's scary or hard does not mean that we should shy away from it. And we can hopefully get that person on board, and that's where the social work skills comes in. There have been great strides that we have been able to take due to cooperation with other agencies like the Children's Center, like Second Chance. Sometimes we're just not doing a good job, and they tell us that, and we can make changes as needed. We have done that. Sometimes we bring in other agencies. We've had recent cases where the Attorney General's office has stepped in to assist us in providing additional help if a case is beyond what we normally do or maybe touches on multiple jurisdictions. So I go back to empowering the victim is an important thing to do. Again, it's ultimately going to be their decision whether they pursue that case, but they can meet with somebody like Jennifer and find out the pitfalls of any sexual assault case and find out the good and the bad and the ugly of it. They can also benefit from counseling along the way, and hopefully what you develop is somebody who's willing to go to bat with you to prosecute that case and take a bad guy off the streets. So that's something that we strive to do, and we do that in cooperation with other people, and I think it's a good thing that we have law enforcement and social service agencies like Second Chance that are there to keep us on our toes and make sure that we do everything we're supposed to do. But if I want to get anything out of this discussion at all, it is to encourage people to come forward and find out what is available for them. And again, if you come forward the same day, that's great. But I think I'll after Jennifer talks, I'd like Susan and Trace to talk a little bit about if you wait 3 days or 4 days or a week or a year, it's not over, and you still can come forward. So you don't want to put the idea out there that if it's not the most ideal forensic case in the world, that it's just gone. And so I'll turn it over to Jennifer for what she deals with on the day-to-day basis dealing with these cases.
One thing to remember is that there's not a statute of limitations on a lot of these cases. And one of the benefits to reporting is that, unfortunately, you may not have been the first victim of that person, and we may be able to go back and look at other people who made reports but were not able to prosecute at that time and then give them the opportunity to work with you and stand with you, and two victims can support each other against the same perpetrator. To minimize trauma, one of the things that I do, and I work with several victims advocates, Second Chance, and within our office, is try to get to know a survivor throughout the process. They're not going to come in and file a police report, meet me once, and then take the stand in a very public trial. We're going to meet numerous times, not just to go over the details, but to get to know each other so that they have a person that they feel like they can trust with what is ultimately their most humiliating and difficult experience, so that we build a rapport, and then we can prepare them for testimony and try to eliminate any surprises and give them more of a sense of control, which is primarily what the rape or sexual assault has taken away from them.
Control. That, I think that's one word too, that that's very pivotal, a very big word when it comes to dealing with rape and sexual assault cases. It's about, and Trace Fleming Smith, Trace, you were the sexual assault. You was the sexual rights advisor for a former program that I used to host here at WLJS that ended last November. You were the sexual rights advisor, and that's one thing that you said. I always remember every time you came on the program was